So I eased myself into this Champions Cup thing in the last video by looking at the challenge from the English sides. This time I'm going to look at the remaining games involving French and South African teams and talk about how good they are, and then I'll come back in a video probably tomorrow predicting those quarterfinals. So let's get into these games. Toulouse 31, Racing 7, and a dominant win by Toulouse. If they're going to win this Champions Cup, I think it's their defence that might do it. That's what really stood out to me from this game. Not many spaces at all. If they're going to play in a final, say against maybe Leinster, who move the ball a lot, lots of clever passes, this is a team that maybe could negate that effect. In attack, their shape is fairly simple, but they get into that offloading so well, and they're so used to doing it, it's not taking them by surprise. They're not making many drops like other teams do. So in attack, they're very good, but that defence, very impressive. And if we're going to talk about Toulouse, we've got to talk about Antoine Dupont, because he is that good. I was watching what he was doing in attack, in and around the ruck. He interests so many players. Yes, lots of scrum halves like to take a couple of steps to suck in a few players, but he does it so quickly and he's so dangerous. He really ties in players, and he does it without really slowing down the attack. Sometimes scrum halves, they'll take a few steps and they've slowed down the whole attack and the defence is up on their remaining backs. Antoine Dupont has the opposite effect. He makes defences stop and backtrack because he's so dangerous. That's what impressed me. Another player that caught my eye was an Englishman, and maybe that's the case as an Englishman, I'm really looking for that. Jack Willis was an absolute grafter. Sure, you've got some massive guys in there as well, but Willis was impressive. He is the glue that holds that pack together. Now, you can completely see why he stayed at Toulouse and not come back to England. What a great team he's in there. And something I should have mentioned in a previous video is he probably is in Lions contention as well, because you don't have to play in England to be in contention to the Lions. So that is a big miss for England. And also a little link here to the vote I've got down below talking about our prediction a year out from the British and Irish Lions. Who do you think is going to be in it? So if you haven't voted, click on that link below and let me know, because I want to report back on that fairly soon. So those were two players that really stood out. For Racing 92, they are a team that definitely underperforms when you look at all that star personnel. They've got all that funding behind them. And I've got to think again, as an Englishman, Owen Farrell going to Racing 92, is he there to actually drive standards and bang some heads together? Because he doesn't suffer fools. Maybe people are thinking he's going to have a nice break after leaving Saracens. I don't think so. I think he's got his work cut out here. They were making some very silly decisions, making lots of mistakes. They should be a lot better. Henry Arundel on the wing just doesn't go looking for the ball unless it comes straight to him. He virtually does nothing, so plenty to learn for him. They've got to get a lot better, but Toulouse look a very settled team. They know exactly what they're about, and they could be absolutely anyone. Then we've got La Rochelle going away to the Stormers. Very tough to go away to South Africa, of course, but they only just get it done. 21-22. The back-to-back champions got out of some real trouble here. The Stormers are going to be absolutely gutted because they played fantastically well. They played like champions themselves because their pack was devastated before the match. They had to call up lots of players. It was devastated in the match. Even though they had a 6-2 split, they could have done with an 8-0, to be honest. And their backs were, cutting the champions apart. Libbok, Willemse, Haaland looking absolute class. And they probably should have won. They will know that. They'll be absolutely gutted at home. And they were 16-0 up. La Rochelle were in danger of being blown away, but the Storm did blow itself out a bit for the Stormers. Plenty of injuries. They even had a 39-year-old prop. Despite them struggling for personnel, the Stormers finished the strongest, actually. They had a try ruled out, an amazing break from Willemse. The outside centre, Duplessis, was seriously inventive. He freed up Damien Willemse for another searing break. There was a yellow card for Leys there. A thrilling finish, and it was a perfect kick pass from Libbok that scores for Hartzenberg in the corner, and Manny Libbok has the chance to win the game with a conversion from out wide. It is a gusty day, but kicking can be his weak suit, and he misses this one. So heartbreak for the Stormers, that is for sure. To be fair to La Rochelle, their experience did kick in halfway through. They got going through their forwards. They didn't really get much teamwork going, to be honest. But those big boys, Antonio, Skelton, Boccia, they really started rolling. It's worth noting most of the players for La Rochelle have won the Champions Cup back-to-back. They're still part of that team. Skelton is one of the best big men around, that's for sure. Boccia is amazing over the ball. Aldreet's still an excellent number 8, although I think a little bit slower than he used to be. Let me know if I'm wrong there. Let's also briefly mention what the South African teams have brought to the URC and the Champions Cup and it's an awful lot of quality. If you thought South African teams played boring rugby, then the Bulls and the Stormers show that they don't. They're really exciting to watch, and they're not dominating, which is great because it's very competitive, but they absolutely could win a Champions Cup. They could win the URC, bring so much quality to those competitions. Attack-wise, back to La Rochelle, they did manage to pile through some phases, and they're so dangerous when they do that, just through the sheer quality of their players, but they're a bit slow and predictable as well, so sides will look at them and think maybe they're not quite as good as they were the last 2 years. And also, you've got to look at their backline and say it's not the quickest. Jack Noel is being used in the right way, and he works as an extra forward off his wing, but he's not the quickest out wide. I say Dulan isn't the quickest fullback. Dante's not the quickest centre. Lades is getting on a little bit, so they are a bit vulnerable, but they can definitely raise it. And with those forwards, with Kerbalo moving them around, they can beat anybody. So they get away with one there. Definitely a bit lucky, but they march on. Then on to the Bulls versus Lyon, and a runaway victory for the Bulls, 59-19, and this game was basically pretty mental. Jay White is building an exciting young team at the Bulls, but they do make some strange decisions as well as score amazing tries. Definitely, it's at altitude. That did have a difference. Lyon were definitely struggling, but I still think they would have lost wherever they were playing. The first 20 minutes, loads of handling errors, and there were lots of errors throughout this game. Passes being forced for sure. Lyon doing the same thing, playing attractive rugby, but lots of errors as well. Continuity attack for Lyon, but they are not good enough at all. Their defence had all sorts of holes in it. The first try for the Bulls, perfect team try, quick ball, power, then goes out wide to the pace. Perfect stuff. The second one was predictably off a handling error. Lyon fumble it, and Arenzo with his lightning pace. Goodness me, he is so good. His acceleration is ridiculous. He frees up the scrum half Papier, who had a great game. But it has to be said, both sides were very loose, not taking much care with their passes at times. Sometimes it's a bit like sevens, like champagne stuff, but the Bulls were far too good. Those centres, Creel and Moody, David Creel and Moody were absolutely amazing. Could they be the South African Springbok centres in the future? I still think they've got a bit to learn, but cool, they've got absolutely everything. Creel at 6'5" is an absolute beast, and we know Moody's got pace to burn. They're two very exciting players. And yeah, the game was a bit ridiculous at times. For Lyon, Pajreo, the Italian scrum half, who was so good in the Six Nations, he was exciting. He scored this crazy try where he took a tap penalty and dotted it down because the game hadn't stopped, and all the South Africans had completely turned around when a water carrier came on. Also important to note that just because a water carrier lumbers on, it doesn't mean the game stops. Refs have been trying to be really hot on this, keeping the game quick, trying to stop those unnecessary stoppages. That was interesting. Papier's second try put the game to bed. It was an absolute worldie, the best of the match by miles, maybe the best of the round, going nearly 100 metres, the length of the pitch, again with Aarons' speed, just phenomenal. And then everyone got involved with the offloading. Brilliant try. It was kind of a celebration of rugby there in South Africa. So yeah, if anybody thinks South Africa play boring rugby, watch this match. It is a bit too loose, that is for sure. They do have kickers who can lump the ball long as well. Papier and Houston happy to leather the ball 50 metres, but in attack, yeah, they throw it around maybe a little bit too much if they're going to go all the way in this competition. So what do you think of those French teams and those South African teams on show in the round of 16? Love to know what you think as always. If you like these sorts of videos, please do subscribe, like, that would be amazing, and I'll catch you next time.